have some of you have joined us, and I see some more people popping in, and that's fantastic. I'll just open with some housekeeping notes. So today we're in webinar mode. It means that you're not able to unmute or ask questions in that way. However, we do have the Q&A function in Zoom where you can post questions and we will answer them. I will have time at the end for questions. The chat, also a great space, but if you post questions there, it's very hard for me to find them and respond to them. So I really recommend using the Q&A box because I'm our sole presenter today, and then my colleague Jaleh Sassani is kindly helping us in the chat and posting some of the helpful links and things you need to know. Donc, si tu es ici pour apprendre au sujet du programme V à l'innovation, puis tu veux entendre la présentation en français, on fait ça aujourd'hui en anglais, mais nous avons un outil qui s'appelle Wordly, puis tu peux voir une transcription en français pendant que je fais la présentation. En plus, nous avons une copie du PowerPoint en français qu'on va mettre dans le chat aussi. Donc, si tu veux lire le contenu de cette présentation en français, tu peux faire ça. So if you want to see transcriptions of the presentation, you can follow the Wordly link. It's available in English and French. We are recording today's session and we will be posting it online. And if you're interested in seeing a French copy of this presentation, one is going to be shared in the chat. So again, welcome. My name's Alex Barlow. I'm the Vice President Programs here at the Canadian Food Innovation Network. Today we're here to talk about a new program that we've launched called our Innovation Scouting Fund. We've issued a summer 2025 call under this program with a confidential partner. And so in the first half of today's webinar, I'm going to be going through an overview of CFIN and the Innovation Scouting Fund program and the rules around the program. And then I'm going to dive into the specific call and priorities that you must be responding to as part of this call in order to be qualified as eligible under the funding program. So if you're new to CFIN, a few things you should know about us. We are a 4-year-old organization. We've built a member-driven network from industry, from the food sector, and we're really here to focus on both and champion the investment in and adoption of innovation in the food sector. When we talk about food, we really mean what we call post-farm gate, but it's really food manufacturing or beverage manufacturing, distribution, food service, restaurants, and grocery retail. And that's the end of the sector that we're really keen on. So we don't focus very much on agriculture. And we've brought together as a network over 7,000 members across Canada. And perhaps some of you are already members of CFIN. And we're here to connect you to not only other members of the sector, but ideas, opportunities, technologies. We want to build collaboration. We want to build Canada's leadership globally as a food innovation hub and as a food, exporter and grow the strength of our food sector. We're a national team. We're a national organization. This call is eligible to companies across Canada. And we are, really here, as I said, to champion food innovation. We break our sort of focus up into a few different areas, whether it's food manufacturing technologies, looking at novel ways to use food waste to bring more circularity to the sector and address very large amounts of wasted product, digital supply chain tools, new ways to manage food safety and traceability. We also look at kitchen and restaurant technologies. We're keen on new ingredients and the concept of food as medicine, which our summer 2025 food innovation scouting call or innovation scouting call focuses on. We also have looked at packaging and consumer applications and services. We really bring sort of three core components. First, there's a service piece to being a member. Each of our regions has a regional innovation director who are there to provide you with local support, national solutions, connect you with resources. Um, they're there, sort of a boots on the ground piece. We have Yodel, which is our member exclusive innovation playground. It allows you to access some self-serve tools to quickly solve R&D problems, but also pose questions to fellow industry members. What is the best nutrition labeling software? Who has spray drying capacity, etc. And then we also offer unique funding opportunities. And of course, that's what we're here to talk about today, where we're really trying to drive a better adoption of Canadian food innovation. And our impact to date, so across both our members and social media, we have, an audience of over 20,000. We've distributed over $19 million in funding to industry projects across, I think today even we're now above 100 actual food tech projects funded. We've created over 355 full-time jobs and co-op placements, and we've supported the development of 135 plus new IP creations. So our members really, are a broad swath of ecosystem champions, whether it's private sector companies, investors, government, research, academia, and certainly welcome you to join us as a member if you've not already. It's a free membership and can be done briefly online, and I'll have a link you can follow throughout the presentation to do that. So, why are we here? The Innovation Scouting Fund is a new program launched by CFIN. It's a national call, and this is a program where we are working with a partner from our membership who are either in food processing, distribution, food service, or grocery retail. They come and sponsor the call and they define a set of priorities or innovation areas that they're interested in. And then they put that call out to you, CFIN's wider members, whether you're in academia or in a private sector SME or business. And we're looking for folks to respond to these call priorities, pitch their innovations as a solution, and the selected applicants will receive funding support of up to $75,000 to run a pilot project with our call sponsor. And the funding will cover the essential costs for the innovator and the partnering firm, if there are any, to enable effective testing and validation in real-world applications. So it might be about covering the cost to put one of your units on their plant floor. In other cases, it might be about supplying a large batch of ingredients that they can deliver to their co-manufacturer and integrate into an end product. There's a lot of different potential ways we collaborate with our Scout and Call partners. And in this particular call, our call sponsor has chosen to remain confidential, and we'll go through their priorities once we've covered through the program. In terms of, who's eligible, small and medium-sized enterprises incorporated in Canada. An SME is a pretty broad definition. So if you're currently under 499 employees and doing anywhere from 0 to 50 million in annual sales, you're an SME. Academic researchers at Canadian institutions are also eligible. So if you are a PhD student or a researcher and you're working on an innovation that you believe could respond to the call priorities, then you may apply. You have to be a CFIN member to apply. And as I mentioned, membership is free. And if you're from, not-for-profit organizations, other Crown Corps, government departments, etc., unfortunately, you're not eligible to receive CFIN funding. Under this program, Projects must be responding to one of the priority areas identified in the call. You've got to be doing research and development somewhere between a TRL of 3 to 7, and I'll cover on the next slide TRLs and what that means. We're looking for Canadian intellectual property. If you have licensed or internationally owned intellectual property, so for example, you're a distributor for a German ingredient that might fit perfectly into the call priorities. Unfortunately, you're not eligible for our funding program. We're looking for Canadian intellectual property. We're looking for a project that could be completed within a year of approval. And as I mentioned, every call has some specific requirements to be met, and we'll cover that shortly. So the TRL levels, this is a pretty standard scale used by government and innovators in sort of the development of an innovation. We're looking for innovations that are at least a TRL of 3. So you may have your initial concept or proof of concept, but it needs validation. And we're looking to support you in the work as you do that validation with our call sponsor. And that work will be somewhere between TRLs 3 to 7. So if you have a fully commercialized product that meets the call priorities, and it's already very well demonstrated in exactly where the call sponsor is looking to work in, then you're welcome to contact us. We're happy to forward the information to our sponsor, but it's not eligible for funding because it doesn't really need additional validation. From an intellectual property perspective, uh, intellectual property is very important to us. That's really, we're providing research and development and demonstration funding. So we want to know that there's intellectual property involved in our projects. We're here to support the development of intellectual property. We know what an important asset that is in your business. We want to make sure that you're protecting it. We will not take any ownership or interest in your intellectual property that is developed with our funding, or that is further commercialized after we provide you funding. And in this call, and generally in the Innovation Scouting program, the call sponsor is not taking any interest in your intellectual property. They want to test this product or innovation that you have out. They want to prove that it works, and then hopefully they will become a customer. If you are in the process of still protecting your intellectual property, this is an eligible expense in our programs, and we will consider it. And we'll also cover the cost to develop an IP agreement between the applicant and the call sponsor. So if you have some legal costs in order to work with our sponsor and protect your intellectual property, we will cover that as an eligible expense under your project budget. In terms of funding, how much is available? What are we providing? Under this call, we're offering 60% of eligible project costs up to 75K. So you get to bring your innovation along with a test partner who's validating and telling you whether or not it's meeting their market needs, and potentially, validate future sales with them. At a 60% cost coverage from CFIN up to a maximum of 75,000. So we're looking for a budget that's going to be somewhere between 20 and 105K. You've got to provide some matching funds, whether it's from your own contributions or partners. And in total, under this call, we have enough funding to support 1 to 2 projects. So we'll be selecting really the top scoring initiatives under the call to move forward with a project. I haven't seen any questions in the Q&A box, but again, I invite you to share them, and I'm happy to answer them. In terms of cost for reimbursement, the direct labor costs are, your staff costs, your subcontractors and consultants. So if you need to engage a third-party testing agency, the materials, The equipment or other direct costs are all eligible, and they're further detailed in the program guide. So if to produce this ingredient, for example, for testing by our call sponsor, you've got some staff time. You're going to work with with a third party to produce a batch of the ingredients. You're going to ship those ingredients. You're going to run some third party testing. You might have to travel to the partner's site. Those are all costs that we would consider eligible in the project. And what we're asking you to do in the application is to build a budget with your estimates on what those costs would be with as much detail as possible. Things we're not going to pay for. What we call indirect or overhead costs, things like rubber gloves and hairnets, or I don't know, the hydro at your office, or the membership cost for your organization in a professional association. So sort of bigger costs of doing business are not eligible for the funding. We won't fund early stage R&D activities where you're doing R&D at a stage earlier than TRL 3. Security or safety certifications, including food safety consultants. Just a rule behind our funding that we can't cover that. Alcohol or unreasonable travel expenses, the cost of a consultant to prepare your application or your claims, or just anything not outlined in, your original project budget. Should you be the successful applicant, it does happen sometimes that throughout the project, your needs change. You realize you didn't budget enough for testing, or you've got to buy a piece of equipment to deliver on the project. That's fine. We know that, and we have a process for amending the budget. But we do ask that as much as possible, you build a budget that reflects what you think the cost would be of testing out your ingredient and or your solution, and that you outline that in the submission. We often get questions about stacking. Can you stack funds, in a project, or can you bring in a MyTax student to work on an initiative, etc.? Know that yes, you can stack. We allow that up to 75% of the eligible project costs. But we do ask you, what are those programs that you're going to leverage, and can you tell us about it? If you are looking to stack and you're not sure if you can follow these rules, you're welcome to contact us, and we encourage it so that we can give you advice on the front end and help you complete the most competitive application possible. So, what's the application process? So first, no, generally all of our funding programs are competitive, and submitting an application does not guarantee funding. We accept applications through an online portal that is open, and we take those applications until the advertised date of the closure for the intake, which I believe at the moment is the 28th of August. 2025. So you have just over 4 weeks. The application portal allows you to submit supplemental documents such as letters of support. It could be the nutritional panel or testing results from your ingredient. It could be quotes, cost proposals, or other documentation that you feel is going to add context to your submission. You'll see our questions on this application are fairly brief, so you only get 500 words per section to answer the questions. If you want to add some additional documentation, you're welcome to, and we will review that. We do require or ask for 2 years financials to be submitted with your application. If you can't meet this requirement, which is common for us, we do ask that you provide a term sheet or a bank statement or some other documentation demonstrating that your financial position, because of course we're going to agree to give you a portion of the funding, but not all of it. So we really just want to establish that your organization is a going concern, that you have some funds, I recognize that many applicants to our programs are very early stage businesses, often operating, at a pre-seed or seed level of investment. And so you don't have to show me you have $1 million in the bank. We're looking to understand that, you can afford the project and that you would be all right in managing a reimbursement process for this project. When we request that under this particular program, please know that your financial documentation is not something that everyone is going to see. These documents are for our staff only to validate that, you've got that requirement taken care of. It's not shared with the call sponsor. And just to give you that confidence, it's also included in the terms and conditions of the submission that you're agreeing to provide us that information, but recognize that we are noting that it will not be shared. And just because you can afford the project or have your half does not mean that your application will be is going to be approved. It's a merit-based process, and we score all the applications based on a scoring grid, which I'll cover off next. So, what are the questions? There are a few questions here that you're going to respond to. And the first is, what is your solution and how does it respond to the call priorities? That's worth 15 points. In the application guide, we provide specific guidance about what we'd like you to address in this response, and it's also in the application form. So when you're writing out your answer, we tell you exactly, this is what we're looking for you to address in order for this response to be complete. Please read that very carefully. Do not miss pieces of what we're asking you for, because that's part of how we're going to score you, and usually the top scoring submission is the winning one. We ask you, what's the impact that could be realized by your solution? So if you're proposing a novel ingredient, what are the health impacts you believe that ingredient offers? Or what are the cost impacts in terms of the formulation? What benefits would it offer someone who might integrate this into their products or their operation? What are the resources you have to complete the project? So who's your team? If you need outside testing, who do you use? If you are, going to need to produce batch ingredients or produce some samples, what's the infrastructure you have to do that? We want to know that if we approve this, that, the project could be executed fairly quickly, because we're looking to complete this within a year. We'd love to know what, is your ideal plan or approach for a pilot for the demonstration of your solution. So how do you see this playing out? What, ideally, if you're going to work with someone who might be interested in integrating your ingredient or solution into their business, how would you go about doing that? And last, what's the competitive landscape analysis? This is usually a great opportunity to speak to how your solution is better than what the call sponsor might already be using. So for example, if you're developing a sugar replacement, you may want to speak to other sugar replacements and their cost or their availability and their performance, and then speak to your particular solution and how it's different. And then lastly, we allocate a small score to the budget. The budget needs a level of detail so that we can assess what you're proposing to do, what your costs are. Don't just put in a line item that says direct labor, $40,000. Let us know that it's a food scientist or a processing technician, and give us an idea of the hours and the wage. If you've got a budget for testing, if you know who you're going to use, let us know who it is. We won't necessarily hold you to that name if you're approved, but we'd like to know again that you've identified the infrastructure that needs to come together for the project, and that you've costed out a reasonable outline for the project. It's very possible, should you be selected, that budget may change once you are connected with the call sponsor and have a chance to discuss the standard process that they operate within. that the plan may change, and we're flexible on that. The full proposal is going to include this application template, a completed budget and work plan, and any attachments that you believe will support the proposal. So that's the overview of innovation scouting as a whole, of the program generally. As I mentioned, every call has some established priorities set by the call sponsor that they're looking to address. So this is our innovation scouting call for summer 2025. It's actually the first innovation scouting fund call that we've ever issued, and we're doing it in partnership with a large Canadian food company. I understand that that's vague. It's vague because our call sponsor, as I mentioned earlier, has chosen to remain confidential for the call. Once the semifinalists are selected, so if you're one of our top scoring submissions and we're going to pick from you for the winners, you are going to present to the sponsor. You will learn their identity prior to final selection. So you will have the chance at that time to connect with them. They're going to have a chance to ask you questions. You can ask them questions, and they're going to, based on your application and that opportunity to meet, select the winners. And in terms of once the winner is selected, we're all going to sign a master project agreement with CFIN and the call sponsor, which is going to outline, the funding we're giving you, what the reporting requirements are, and of course, outline those agreements regarding intellectual property. So, what is this call all about? The call is really axed on the concept of food as medicine and health, really. At the end of the day, our call sponsor is pretty heavily focused on improving the overall health performance of their products, but they're also interested in a couple other areas beyond that. And so, there's, I believe, 6 call priorities in total. And they're quite interested in anything that responds to those areas and have provided some details on each one. In terms of the overall call, this is focused on human health. So if you have an animal feed solution, something for cosmetic or beauty applications, unfortunately, it's not eligible for this call. They're not looking at new branded products. So if you make a really fantastic protein bar, and you would like our partner to bring that branded product into their operation and, I don't know, sell it for you, that's not really what they're looking for. They're looking to integrate largely ingredients or products into their own product lines, under their own brands, under their own operation. They're not interested in helping you with clinical trials. And they're looking for solutions, as we said before, that have achieved a TRL of 3. And ideally, they're looking for submissions that are safe for consumptions under current Canadian food regulations. So if you're a novel ingredient, you're welcome to apply, but you should be considering or actively pursuing Health Canada approval. And they're okay if you're not really ready for full commercialization. They understand that when they're looking at cutting edge ingredients, that they could be a few years away from full commercialization. Just going to take a drink because I'm losing my voice. And just take a second again to encourage you, should you want to ask questions. I'm on my sort of last few slides, and I welcome your questions to be posted, and I can address them at the end of the slides. Excuse me. And so our priority areas, and as I mentioned, there are 6 of them. The first is around hormone balancing. So the sponsor is interested in ingredients to assist with insulin, with cortisol, or other hormones. For example, an ingredient that could improve insulin sensitivity or secretion. They're interested in adaptogenic ingredients for cortisol regulation. That's not the exhaustive list. So if you have something that you believe falls into this category, you're welcome to submit it. innovative protein solutions. So they're certainly interested in solutions that would help them achieve a PDCAS score, or that enables a protein-based claim. That could be a novel plant-based protein or a single cell protein or other solution. Could also be something that you may have a solution that would help them address some of the sensory issues with novel protein applications, such as advanced processing techniques, creative product formulations. We've seen a number of projects in our other programs around, using different biotech solutions to improve some off tastes or colors within plant-based proteins or novel proteins. Saturated fat reduction. So again, ingredients, alternative fats, or novel processes that would reduce saturated fat across a broad range of prepared food. So here they might look at plant-based alternatives, fat modification, structuring agents, emulsifiers, anything that would help them address saturated fat. And they're open there to the food category. So, for example, could be dairy, could be baked goods. They're open to your solutions. And then the last three areas, precision fermentation. So if you have novel ingredients from precision fermentation, they're certainly interested in hearing about them. They're also looking at new ways for shelf life extension. That is specific. In this case, they're looking for bakery, home meal replacements, or other prepared foods. And the solutions could be natural antimicrobials, antioxidants, enzyme inhibitors. They are not looking at packaging. So if you have a sustainable packaging solution, they're not interested. They're looking for ingredients or things that they can apply on the food products to achieve a shelf life extension. We will not consider any type of packaging solution eligible under this particular call. And then lastly, they're looking at ways that they might be able to improve the nutrient density of Canadian commodities. And specifically they're looking at processing techniques, whether it be it's of the final food product or of, let's say, a lighter, more lightly transformed food product, dehydrated, dried, etc. Ways that they can improve the nutrient density, increase the amount of vitamin, minerals, fiber, and bioactives that end up in a transformed product. So those are the priorities. They're outlined in quite a lengthy call details document on the program website. When you apply, as you saw during the scoring grid, the first question you're going to answer is, how does your solution align with one of these priorities? You'll also be selecting in the application which priority you're applying under, and you have to choose one. If you fit under a couple, choose the one that fits best and move from there. Those are, if your technology is not going to fit under this particular call priorities, then it's not going to be eligible. And you'll hear from us once we close the intake, noting that, what you submitted it does not fit the call priorities and won't be moving forward for examination. So those are the priorities. I'm going to run into a little bit of a demo of how to use our application platform, but I do see one question where someone has asked if they have a technology that's really aiming at optimizing R&D processes in the food sector, is it eligible? So Roman, I hope that my review of the priorities has shown you that no, it would not be eligible. You have to hit one of those call priorities, and I'm not sure what you're describing would be a fit. However, we do have other open programs at the moment through our Innovation Booster, and you certainly could look to apply in that call. So I'm going to go ahead and just pull up here our our website for our application platforms and just start first under our website for Innovation Scouting Fund. To see all of the links here, the apply now and everything, you need to be logged into Yodel. So you can see I'm logged in over here. If you want to join Yodel, go and become a member, and then you'll be able to access the full links. The apply now button will only appear if you're logged in as a member. We have the program guide, which covers all of the program details that I covered in the first half in both English and French. The French the application is the same whether you apply in English or French, so you're welcome to submit in either language. And then there are the call details for the program, which goes through each of the priorities and the overall requirements of this particular call. And then very shortly, we'll also have this info session posted here. So you'll be able to watch this over if you learn better under that way. But the program guide and the call details are the official documents for the call, and that's where you'll go ahead and find that information. If you want to apply, click this apply now button. It takes us to our platform to apply. If you want to use the system in French, you can select that here. I'm going to go ahead and log in and just show you how it works. If this is your first time using this and you've just registered as a CFIN member, give us 24 hours to get you set up on here. And the first time you come and use it, go click Forgot Password to reset your access. So I'm going to log in. This is what the page will look like when you log in. You will see you can go and edit your company profile. You can edit your own profile, change your password, etc. And you can see three open programs. So I'm going to click that. And then I see here the Innovation Scouting Fund, the details. I can click Apply Now. I will respond to the eligibility questions, submit the eligibility, and move from there into the application. Once I've done that, and let's say I've saved a draft, if I had to leave, gotta go pick up the kids from school or do something else, I will come back and I will find the application that I started here under In Progress. So you can go ahead and then do that. So that's a little bit on how to use our program. I'm gonna put us back on, a final page here. You're welcome to connect with us. If you're not a member, you can use this. I encourage you to ask your questions. And someone has asked a question, the question in the Q&A in French regarding innovations that have yet to be protected by patent and what measures are put in place by the program. First, we will fund the engagement of IP advice and work, for you as an applicant. So it's a cost that you can put in your budget. Our master project agreement would outline that, each party is bringing to the table some intellectual property and that intellectual property remains theirs. You can also incur the expenses to prepare an intellectual property agreement with our sponsor to protect that property and outline what each of your expectations are regarding that intellectual property. So it's an eligible cost. We'll help you protect it. And as mentioned, the guide of the program is that neither party want to take ownership of your intellectual property, but you do want to come with a prepared plan around how you're going to protect it, and we'll help you pay for some of that work. So if you're not selected, yes, you will put information in your application regarding your intellectual property. However, you're not The application is only 500 words per question, and we're not asking you specifically to detail to us how do you get to do this. You know, what settings in the bioreactor allow you to create your sugar-free sugar. So we're not asking you for the secret sauce in the application. We're asking you to detail what your solution is, but not how you create it. We're not asking you to tell us exactly the mechanisms for which how you've developed this innovation. We're asking you to detail to us what the benefits are, what it would provide. So if you're not selected, you haven't really shared, shouldn't be sharing really confidential, private information in the application. Hopefully that answers your question. And if you do have more questions about it, I certainly welcome an email to innovation@cfin-rcia.ca, and we can go ahead and sort out any sort of questions you might have, or perhaps help you identify whether or not this is an appropriate program for you to apply to. I'm at the end of our slides, so I will stop sharing and invite any other questions to be posted into the chat. Or, as I mentioned, if you want to take this conversation offline and reach out to us, you're welcome to do so. Innovation at cfin-rcia.ca. And we're happy to help you explore this program a little bit further. I'm not seeing any further questions, and I don't see anything in the chat. So again, invite you to reach out to us afterwards, and I'll let you all get back to your busy day and just say thank you so much for joining us in this session, and hopefully we've given you some good information.